it's not too complicated, I don't think. So you got a couple options. Honestly, the simplest option you could do is honestly, you could probably just, use these to set up a side view, front view, whatever it is you want to do. And simply like, you can use the snipping tool. If you search this in Windows and click new, you can drag this and like paste it in Photoshop, or honestly, simply, I believe you can print from here, file print. Um, that's a simple thing you can do. You can also set up a 3D view, turn on perspective, and print that out to sketch around it. But I think the way that I would do it, and I think the more proper way, would be to create a drawing. So again, this is a bit of a recap from project one. So the way to do that is you go to File and New. You want to select Drawing, click OK. And I'm sorry, I don't have a PDF sheet for this. If you look way back to project one, I probably gave you one, or it's probably on Box. I can double check that after this. In the sheet format size, you want to change this width here to be 11 inches. So you can see my default is millimeters, so you may need to type in IN. If you forget to do that, you might end up with a sheet that's 11 millimeters by 8 millimeters, and it'll print funny or pixelated. The height, 8.5 inches. So now we have 8.5 by 11 landscape, represented by this tan sheet. SOLIDWORKS does this weird thing sometimes where it doesn't update. And simply here, when you create a new drawing, it automatically prompts you to put in a CAD component. So in this case, I'm going to double click on this P4 cam underlay. If you scroll down here, you see some options. So firstly, the main thing I'm checking here is this 1:1 scale. You can change it if you want. Use custom scale, 1:1, 1:2, whatever you want. And if I click on this, this gives us the front view. And now you can get a sense of how big this would actually be in real life. And then simply, I'm just giving myself a front, top, side. And honestly, at this point, it's just a matter of you can save this out. So I can say File, Save As, and I can just save it out as a JPEG. And it'll save it out full scale. I can print it. I can then get a sense of the scale of this. I could fire up Sketchbook Pro. Let's see here. It was under this here, and go ahead, right click on this and say open with Sketchbook. I mean, it can be up to you. You can sketch analog, digital, whatever you want, print it out. But now, like if let's say this is, I think the example I gave is this is for a truck driver. So maybe I make a note that this component actually needs to be moved over. And again, these can be rough underlays. They don't have to be anything crazy. Again, I just want an idea of like where you plan to take this. Right? It could just be a bunch of explorations like this. I guess I was on the wrong layer here. But very similar to what Juan did. I mean, depending on the angles of approach, right? Maybe you have one concept that's domed. Maybe it needs to get wider at the back for the battery. Maybe, if it is for a truck driver, is there a suction cup back here? How does it attach? It could just be orthographics. It could be 3D. It's totally up to you how to approach this. But I definitely want to see sketches over CAD components. That is a requirement for Project 4. I think it'll be a nice addition to your work. And again, it's something that's done frequently, and if it's something you haven't done yet, I strongly recommend it. It'll be a good addition to a portfolio to be able to point to or talk about. It's kind of like a realistic approach. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, one thing you could consider too is start to think about where the part lines are going to be. So this is what I'm going to cover a week from today. So if you want to start thinking about part lines for this concept here, the part line would probably be somewhere here. And again, think about it like you're baking a cake or something. It has to be able to come out of the mold. So that's why in a shape like this, the part line is always going to be at the widest part right down the middle. You know, so if I'm sketching on this one here, like I think if I recreate that original design that I had, maybe this one's a more geometric option. The part line would probably be, again, somewhere like there. You know, you can start to think about wall thickness. And the good thing with these sketches is now these could be brought into CAD and used as a master, as at least the starting form and trace of a master sketch. If I think about my own work, common underlays that I would do. So I guess here's something new. This is going to be different than project one. Is you can set up a view that you think you want to draw on that would show some nice like three-dimensional form. So maybe something like this. You want to make sure that perspective is turned on. And if you hit spacebar, you can save views and orientations. So you can click on this, or sorry, let's see. Sorry, click on this up here. It's like this telescope with a little star above it. Click on that, and it will bring this pop up that says named view. So you can say like hero or whatever you want to call it. And now if I go back to this sheet, you know, maybe I don't want all these views. This is how I would set up a sketch underlay for a project. If I was working for a client, they maybe gave me this camera, said, hey, can you work on this? I'd say insert drawing view model. I might set up a 1-to-1 scale of this side view. Actually, maybe, you know what I might do? I might do side front. So insert drawing view projected, because this is already in here. So that's how I'm able to get this to come off this way. But then what I might do is insert another drawing view of the same model, double click on this, and you'll notice down here, these are all the orthographic views. You'll notice down here under more views, there's hero, which is what I created, and it's checked. If I click on this now, you can see it's giving me that angle. And maybe if I want it bigger, I can select this. I can use the custom scale here. It's the way it loads is frustrating. There's this like hidden option because the bar loads at the bottom. If you scroll this up, there's user defined, and you can make this 2-to-1 so that it's nice and big. And then here I might go ahead and save this out as a JPEG. So file save as JPEG. I think I forgot to mention last time there's options here. It pops this up. You can check your DPI. You know, 300. I had it at 600. I don't know what I was working on that required that, but 300 DPI is probably good enough. Create a second underlay here. Open this up, and then if I was doing client work, this would be my approach. I would start by just doing a bunch of like little thumbnail sketches on this side view. Like I said, I had this triangle idea. You know, maybe give it a little bit more form to it. Again, thinking about where the part line is. I had like maybe a softer idea. If you have a user in mind, right? If it is a truck driver, then maybe it needs some way to attach to the dash. You know, maybe it's, and this is where that mood board comes in and is a little bit more handy. But then based on these ideas, I might then take this one and start to then develop it. Like, okay, what does it look like from this view? You know, how does this object then translate in here? You know, and again, thinking about how does it suction? What does that look like? I don't know. Again, I'm not necessarily grading the quality of sketch. Just do whatever you need to do. It's basically thinking on paper is the way that I see it. What I am going to be grading when I look at Project 4 is I just want to make sure that I see some sketches over SolidWorks components. I just want you to go through that exercise. I hope you find it beneficial. But I do believe it would be good to show in like a portfolio or something. Awesome. Are there any questions on any of that stuff? Yes, Alex.
So I'm gonna do a speaker, and I know there's a lot of internal components to it. So would it be easier to like kind of get an idea of where like the battery, the drivers, the speaker, and all that stuff go, like kind of compact into like an intended shell, and then sketch around that, or because I noticed that this is like just the small camera part, but um, like I would like to put more details into it because like I actually kind of like already know where I'm gonna go forward with it. I just don't know how simple you want the guts to be.
Um, okay, I'm not so I think okay, short answer. So if you okay, how simple do I want the guts to be? That is your choice. My comments on keeping the guts simple is coming from not wanting to stress anyone out and wanting to I think the main exercise here is to learn how to design a package around a given form or shape or volume. I think that's a valuable exercise. So as long as you're doing that, and that can be done with simple guts, I think that's valuable. So so the simplicity and complexity is your choice. Um, if you want to take the time and have it be complex and accurate, uh, I encourage everyone who has that bandwidth and that passion to definitely do what they can. The best way, again, to make it accurate would be to, at the very least, look up exploded views of speakers online. Even better yet would be if you have an old speaker lying around to actually take it apart and see how the components are packaged and duplicate that, mimic it. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. I just didn't know like what the. Well, I appreciate you like kind of making it easy. Like I already had like in mind like because like when I was taking apart my speaker a while back, like I noticed that inside shell, it would have like these extruded parts to hold certain modules and components. So it's like I was thinking about like when I do explode this, like how am I gonna like put that into like some little shelf that they made inside this little like the shell that they made for the speakers. So, but yeah,
I got you. Yeah, that's a great question. So, yeah, a week from today, we're going to get onto the insides of these objects. The short answer here is, once again, it's up to you the level of complexity you want to go to. So I'm opening this because this is actually the demo that's a week from today. Um, the level of detail you're willing to go for this demo and for your own project, again, is optional. I would encourage everyone to go into as much detail as they're willing to get, and I'm here to help you with all of you with that detail. I think this demo will give you at least like a starting ground. But again, I don't want it to be stressful or too much. As far as I'm concerned, as long as you have a clamshell, so basically like a body that's split in the middle, with objects floating on the inside, that's okay. But if you look at this one, if I click on this right plane and click on this icon here for section view, you can actually
hmm
see that this demo includes, these are called bosses for mounting the components. Now,
yeah,
I definitely do not expect you all to do bosses for mounting components. That said, I do plan, at least with this demo, to give you a basic idea of how they work and what they look like, that if you wanted to fake them in, you could. Um, it definitely, it's a little bit trickier. Um, again, I'll do my best to help you remotely with that. If we look back to other student work, you can see some of them kind of approach it and hint at it. I mean, we can see what Juan did. I know that Max and I talked about it. I mean, and I will have conversations with you all about how best to split your objects. I mean, if you look at Juan's here, it does look like these are all just floating in there. But that said, I
yeah.
mean, um, yeah. I mean, if we go to his final concept, and this was a requirement that I made for this class last time, is I wanted real part lines for the final component. And a real part line, it has this kind of step in it. So I don't know if you can all see the difference between this here. If you look at how this part line is built, keep that in your mind's eye, or actually here, better yet, I can show them side by side. Let me do this. So we have that real part line for the final, and I'll compare it to one of these earlier concepts. Like here's just a dummy part line. It's literally just cut in half. Here's a more realistic part line where it's like stepped.
Hmm.
So if you're willing to make the efforts to make these details, that actually looks like Juan built in some holders in here for the final. Like that might be my advice to you all is for the initial concepts, just have it be like basically, um, just a shelled body. So a left and a right that's hollow. Again, think of like a cupcake container. But for the final, maybe you build in this part line. And again, this is what a week from today's demo will be. It'll show you how to build this part line. And then maybe just some like simple extruded, to use your word, shelves or bosses to hold components. Um, that that obviously is more of an individual basis. I mean, that's something where if you upload your guts and you send me an email and say, hey, how can I best package? And again, this is where maybe it's best for the final concept because then it's only one that you go to that level of detail in. You can email me and say, hey, how would I, hold these components in here, and I can give you my 2 cents, my best idea or ability at that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, as far as like how to lay out the speaker to begin with all the complexity and guts on the inside. Again, it sounds like you took a speaker apart, and that's good. If you have photos of that, I would refer there. Right now, here's this kind of like one that I just kind of faked. Um, it's up to you. I mean, things I've recommended students do in the past, I don't think, again, losing a week and with everything going on, I don't expect this of anyone, but I'll throw it out there. It's something that is done. Is you could print out full scale, um, like front views of each of these speakers. If you really wanted to take it to that next level, put them on foam core to give them the depth that they would actually be, even if it's like a foam core box. And these then become dummy models that you can play with and rearrange differently, like in front of you, to figure out the best layout for your design. Um, Again, I don't expect that of anybody. It's just something that is done sometimes. If it's basically like doing this kind of stuff, but in real life with physical components that you then like document with your by taking photos and either treating it the exact same way as now having an underlay to sketch over, or simply just having it as part of your presentation of like, this is one of the steps in the process that I went through. Um, Again, maybe the middle ground is to do that in CAD. So like this would be my speaker concept one. I have 3 batteries and 2 speakers. My speaker concept two, I would maybe hide this. I would maybe insert another speaker. Um, Whoops, didn't mean to do that. And maybe concept two would be, okay, maybe this one, the speaker is off to the left. And now I have 2 concepts to sketch on and build around. So like that's another way to approach this. Cool. Any other questions, comments? Yes, no? Should we end the day with some show and tell from my desk? You're like, oh dear God, no, don't. All right. Hopefully y'all can see me.